Hey, Tommy, what are you doing up there?
Well, I'm hanging up all of my Star Wars stuff.
Star Wars?
Yeah, may the fourth be with you, Jimmy.
Oh, you're taking down your Red Sox stuff and putting up Star Wars stuff?
Yeah, the Sox haven't been exactly what I want anymore, so I found a new hobby.
Well, maybe you should start your hobby tomorrow with Cinco de Mayo, or the next day with the Derby.
Well, I thought about celebrating with the White Sox. I mean, they got 3 in a row now, man. They've won. So I might switch from red to white.
Oh, I'd only do that with wine, Tommy.
No, I think I'm going to just have a little slow sipping of that Kentucky bourbon for the Derby.
Welcome to Baseball Biz on Deck, and I'm Mark Carpenter, host, and with me today, I have Mr. Nick Murawski, the man when it comes to talking about the White Sox. Nick, if there's somebody that's busy about the game, it's Mr. Nick Murawski. You can find him at Locked On Sox, and then also the podcast, Good Gas Talk Back. Yeah, talk Bach. You talk classical music, don't you, Nick?
I might as well this season. Why not?
Well, welcome, man. It's great to have you here. I've always enjoyed you. You've enjoyed watching the Sox the last couple of years. Some changes when it came to management and not so much in other things.
Yeah, I appreciate it, Mark. Thanks. Not a lot of people want to talk White Sox. Not a lot of people want to talk White Sox locally, let alone nationally. So thank you for the opportunity. It's never a dull moment. It's just been dull lately for our Sox.
Well, I've been looking at I think historically what you all were doing last year, second in the division. And let's see who led. The Guardians led the division, and you guys were right behind them. And the Twins, who are doing pretty well right now, ended with a record of 481. They were not doing so well. The Royals last year ended with 401. So and right now they're at 230. So the question is this: how important is it right now? What's happening in April? I mean, is this a fair barometer for any team?
Well, that's a good question. Pedro Grifol, the new manager, would talk about in the offseason, look, you can't win a championship in April and May, but you can lose it if you're not prepared, if you don't have sound fundamentals, if you're not executing, if you're not doing the little things. And I think that's what I had a problem with. And I think maybe other Sox fans did last year in 2022. It seemed like the team was just saying, hey, look, this division is going to be handed to us. We won it comfortably in 2021. We just need to basically throw ourselves out there, put a lineup, and everyone will fall over, and we'll continue to do what we're doing. As it happens, anytime you win a division, you've got a target on your back from other teams. They want to take down the champ, and we just did not play with any urgency last year. What I'm finding throughout April, it's just been bad baseball. Our bullpen, one of the worst in all of baseball, highest paid as well. Starting pitchers can't go more than 4 or 5 with any consistency. The guys we thought we were going to get power from, Jimenez, Robert, Mancada's been hurt. That hasn't been happening. I mean, Jake Berger has been the guy that's been giving us all the power. And at a national level, baseball fans are like, well, who's Jake Berger? But locally we know him, and it's been nice that he's been getting an opportunity. If you dig yourself deep enough of a hole, Mark, I think that's going to be the problem is when this team starts clicking. It's not like the Twins and Guardians are going to put their lives on pause and say, well, let's wait for the White Sox to catch up so we can have a fun summer. They're also going to be wanting to really bury the White Sox. So can the Sox turn it around? You got to start playing a completely different brand of baseball. And Grifol, maybe he hasn't been getting his message across. Maybe they're not listening to him. Sox had 11 roster moves just a couple days ago. I don't remember a time where they had that many roster moves coming out of a day off. Shook some things up. Sox now have a 2-game winning streak as we record here, and that hasn't happened all season long. So, you take the little victories right now.
Absolutely. And let's talk about those victories, because last week you defeated the number 1 team as far as wins thus far. You guys beat the Rays at the Trop? Yeah, was it at the Trop?
Home. We beat them.
I'm sorry, at home. That's right.
Yeah, in the series finale. Yep.
Because I was thinking, my gosh. All right, first off, I have so much sympathy for you guys in Chicago, period. When I see these games in April, I think, good Lord, man, how cold it gets out there. There's sleeting rain and such and playing. So just the folks that stick out for these games. Okay, the game that you guys beat the Rays, it all pretty well happened in the ninth inning, all that scoring. And as I was watching on TV, all I could think of, I respect those fans there in the bottom of the ninth. They were there. When they go to work tomorrow, nobody else can talk to them because they were there. They stuck around for it and saw the game finish.
Yeah, it was well, there was rain, it was cold. What a roller coaster of a game, and really a roller coaster of a weekend, especially with that Saturday game where Lynn had a no-hitter going into the seventh.
Yeah.
Sox were winning 3-0. I was at that game. I left a little early, and I'm watching the rest of it at home. And I said, I think I might have walked out on history. Lynn looks really good here. And then it just completely went into a different direction. I've never seen anything like that, where they just gave up 10 runs just like that. So Sunday was great. Sox needed that. A big walk-off from Andrew Vaughn. But the weather is there's a lot of fans I know that won't even go to April or May games. They'll just say, you know what, I'm waiting till June. A couple seasons ago, I went in an April game, early April, and we braved out the elements. My wife and I bundled up in winter jackets, ski caps, and we had a nice prize out of that. Carlos Rodon threw a no-hitter. So It's like sometimes you might say to yourself, it's going to be 45 tonight with the wind chill. I don't know if I want to go to a game. You'll never know what you're going to see. So good on those fans, for sticking around. They were treated to a nice finish.
Indeed. So I was really glad to see you guys do it. I am now beating the your division leader, this Twins, last night. And, right now looking at scores, top of the fourth, and you guys are tied. So that could happen again. I'm looking at your team, and overall, most of the people that have been on the roster last year are appearing this year as well. I mean, if I look down the list, Tim Anderson, thank goodness he's back. Andrew Vaughn, Eloy Jimenez, Louis Robert, Gavin Sheets, Grandal, Berger, and Elvis. So, I mean, all of those guys were there last year, weren't they?
Yeah. Elvis came towards the middle end of the year when Tim Anderson went down with a finger injury. We picked him up, and he was really a spark plug for the White Sox as we kind of went on a mini run late last year. And Elvis said, look, if there's an opportunity, I'd love to come back and play for the White Sox. That would have meant he was going to have to change positions as a lifelong shortstop. He was going to have to move to second base. And it took some time in the offseason, but he eventually, nothing against Elvis Andrus. He's a veteran, a solid guy, just got his 2000th hit not too long ago. But I don't think a lot of people were tripping over themselves to sign Elvis Andrus. But,
right.
For our team, the bar has been pretty low for second baseman. The White Sox just do not go out and pay for some of the big names that are on the market, second base wise, and there's a lot of other positions too. So to get a veteran like Elvis Andrus to come back, that was maybe not what was maybe the missing piece, but an okay move for the White Sox.
But Andrew Benintendi, wow! Now there's a nice addition to any team, and you guys. I mean, watching was the last night where not only did he have the walk off, but I saw this incredible catch. I mean, it must have been 2-3 feet over the wall, and he was up there and he caught that ball and stole that home run.
Yeah. Again, we have not have a proven left fielder in a while. We had 2 DH first basemen in our corner outfield last year, and Andrew Vaughn and Gavin Sheets. That is going to be a problem. Opposing teams knew what to do when the ball was hit into the corners. Take the extra base. Those guys do not have outfielder arms. And that had to be addressed. The money, the biggest contract the White Sox have ever given, I mean, $75 million. And again, the way the Sox operate in terms of money is just so archaic. I mean, they're one of the few teams in all of baseball now that have not given a 9-figure contract. They have just not done it. And you look at the other 2 teams, I think the Royals and the Oakland Athletics, and you see where they're at and have been lately record-wise. So, I mean, I guess you can draw some lines to everything. But Benintendi, brings the lefty bat. I was hoping we'd have a little bit more power from him early on, but he gets on base. I mean, he gets some hits. I feel like sometimes when the Sox aren't hitting, he's there, getting a single or what, again, not what we wanted out of him, wanted a little bit more power, but he's been pretty consistent, at least consistent to his career numbers. And of course, adding the glove, a Gold Glove winner out there in left field, was really huge. It checked a big box for the White Sox in the offseason.
Well, I know it was exciting to watch him last night out there in left field, and if he's going to continue to be that kind of player, I mean, it's a reason for me, if I was a White Sox fan, to come back again and again to watch the team. But one of the things I was concerned about last year, Nick, was well, let's face it, you had a guy a lot of people didn't like. He was the manager, and I think the owner liked him, and he's a legend here in Tampa. But man, I don't know. It's time to come for Tony La Russa, I guess. So with the new guy, is he bonding yet? I see him getting thrown out of games. So
he's trying. Maybe he just doesn't want to watch the Sox anymore. I don't blame him. Look, the whole Tony La Russa thing, the reason why he was put in place, if you read between the lines and everything, it's pretty obvious. Jerry Reinsdorf trying to right an old wrong, wanted to take the keys away from Ricky Renteria. I thought pretty early. I think Ricky Renteria could have still been the manager in 2021 and they would have won the division. But Jerry Reinsdorf said, you know what? I think we still have a team here that can win, that can get to the ALCS, could maybe get to a World Series. I'm going to put the guy in that I want to put in. He pretty much went over our general manager, Rick Hahn's head, brought in Tony La Russa. We got a division championship in 2021, quickly bounced out of the playoffs in 2020 at the end of 2021. And then last year was just a mess. I think Tony La Russa was battling some health issues for most of the season before the big one with his heart was announced, and he had to step away from the team. I don't know if he was fit to manage. I'm just kind of speculating after some of the things I read over the offseason. But a new manager had to come in, and I think it was Rick Hahn's opportunity now to hire his guy. And I think a lot of people were scratching their heads at Pedro Grifol. Who is this guy? Even though, he came from within the AL Central, he came from Kansas City Royals. I mean, he's a baseball guy, very impressive resume. A lot of people have said wonderful things about him, what kind of person he could be, a communicator, what kind of baseball mind he has. But I personally, as a fan, was looking for somebody that had come from a very successful organization. I mean, looking at Tampa. I mean, looking at the Rays organization and how they do things, looking at maybe Houston, Atlanta, somewhere where, and they had a track record for success, not just that one World Series in 2015 that he was involved with the organization. So I also was looking for a manager that had previous managerial experience. I mean, this was his first big league gig. And look, he won me over with everything he said in the offseason, and this is what we're going to do, and these are the things we're going to emphasize on, and the fundamentals. And I love the coaching staff that he brought in and surrounded himself with, Charlie Montoya, the bench coach, and Castro hitting coach, and brought some friends from the Royals organization that he's comfortable with. But I don't know if players just kind of listened to his message and said, yeah, you've never done this before. You've never been a big league manager. I'm not going to listen to you. Some of the things we're dealing with and hearing about right now, it just sounds like Pedro Grifol's harping on fundamentals. Well, that's something that should have been figured out in the offseason or spring training, or when some of these players were in high school. I don't, that's the stuff I don't quite get right now. And is it, we have lazy players, or is Grifol not able to, be an effective manager? I don't know.
I don't know either, but I got to tell you, I was watching that one game last week, and I thought I was looking at Manny Machado from a few years back when he said hustling is not his cup of tea.
Sure. Yeah.
And I saw, looking at, of course, Robert Jr.
Yeah.
And oh Lord, I thought, dude, Really, I understand some players think, okay, I'm not going to completely kill myself to get to first and pull a hammy, but still, you're not paying attention to the potential in a case where you really did have a possibility of getting on first. And I sat there and I looked over to the missus. I said, Karen, I can't freaking believe that. I can't believe it. But
yeah, it's he came out with a statement after the game, Robert Jr. did, and said, well, his hamstring was kind of bothering him, and because he hustled so much the night before, he thought he was going to take it easy with the hamstring, but he didn't tell anybody. And even when he was asked by Grifol and Montoya in the dugout, like, are you okay? What was that? He did not give them a clear answer. From what I understand from the stories I'm reading from different journalists that are beat writers with the Sox, a player outed him and went to Grifol and said, actually, I think he's got a hamstring issue. Maybe that was the thing. So that's like hamstring gate. That was going on here in Chicago for a few days. And the weird thing is, Mark, the next day, he's not starting, on Sunday, but in that just sloppy conditions, critical moment, he comes in to pinch hit. And I'm saying to myself, if he has another moment where he's got to beat out a ground ball, well, I'm not trusting a guy that's got an iffy hamstring in these wet conditions.
Yeah.
So apparently the hamstring was magically healed overnight. So
I got to meet his doctor right away.
Yeah, right.
Oh, well, I'm glad to see that he's returned with a little more enthusiasm. But, I go back to what that weather's like for you guys.
Yeah.
And I keep looking at it seemed like the umps missed a lot on both sides to me. I was looking at the umpire scorecard, and I think on the Sox end for that last game, they had them hitting about 80% being correct. So, 20% of the time they were wrong on balls and strikes. And I always wonder too, do you think umpires say, damn, I'm tired of being out in this cold and wet, and I'm just going to expand the strike zone another 3 inches?
You gotta think so, but right now with the quicker pace of play, I guess maybe it's not so much of an issue this year, but I have thought that too in years past. Like, hey, this game's going on 4 hours. It's 35 degrees out. You guys are down by 8 runs. Like, let's just, hey, 5 inches off the corners. Let's go. Let's get this thing finished.
Oh, gosh. Well, but the thing of it is, I was wondering with Mr. Anderson coming back, if that was going to be a spark, if there's a, I wouldn't say blasé attitude, but maybe just not energetic attitude, is that going to come back with Tim Anderson? I heard some of that interview. They had him in the clubhouse the other day, and he was saying, yeah, that's you guys in the press been talking about this for some time now.
Yeah.
And, it's not going to turn on one guy. But
yeah, he is a guy that no question about it. He gets things going for the Chicago White Sox. Players know it, fans know it. Grifol knew it, just coming into the job. He knew all about Tim Anderson from seeing him on the other side with Kansas City. We saw what he did in the World Baseball Classic on a national stage. He can hit, he can play some defense. He's got an energy about him. He's got a spark about him. And with Jose Abreu being gone, I think he kind of takes over a bit of a leadership position. I think he could be actually the longest tenured Chicago White Sox player now with Abreu's departure. So I sure hope so. He fits so nicely in the top of that lineup. If he can kind of stay healthy and protect those legs, we need that at the top of the lineup. We really do. We just also need, guys to just start hitting. We need Eloy Jimenez to start hitting. I'd like to see that a little bit more consistent. Robert had a 3-run homer here in this game too against the Twins early on, but we need more of that. And plate discipline. Guys need to start getting on base. We can't make it so easy on opposing pitching. You got to clean up some fundamentals. Hit a cutoff man, back up a base. Little stuff like that has been really just real hurt. It hurts as a White Sox fan to see some of that. Is like these are how we're losing games. So, and then of course pitching, Mark, Anderson can only do so much. Like, our bullpen is just, as I said, I think worst ERA in all of the league. We had issues last night, again, just giving up leads or letting a team come back. And that is really taxing. Now, I will say starting pitching hasn't been going deep in games either. So that has been tough. I mean, these bullpen arms of ours have been having to log a lot of innings. And when we don't have a very good bullpen, that is a recipe for disaster.
Yeah, I was watching and saw Lance Lynn, and it was magic to watch that man perform. But at one point, I think he got up to about like 102 pitches, and you got to get the man a break. I mean, it started to feel. I'm going to take a jump here real quick because to me, you as a manager, you want to make sure you're taking care of your pitcher's health. And I think at 102 pitches, that's a pretty good sense. But if you're in New York and you're a Yankee fan and you're looking down there and you're seeing Aaron Boone after 81 pitches hit the pitcher in I think it was the ninth inning. I can't remember. Anyway, he pulled Jermaine and he's got 80 some odd pitches. He had only one man. Guy got a single on him and Boone pulls him straight out of the game.
Yeah.
And then they wound up losing. It's like, it's tough to know when to protect those arms, and you're going to be second guessed no matter what as a manager. You come out and take the ball, but Lance Lynn,
need to know. I would say, Mark, that is probably one of the most difficult things because there is a lot of, well, what has your bullpen done recently? Okay, like were they taxed the day before? Who's available? How do they match up against the hitters that are like we're seeing maybe in the lineup here coming up? Right. What does our next day look like? Do we have an off day? Can we kind of, so there is just so many different things that I would assume those conversations have happened in pregame, with pitching coach, pitching staff. It's like, how do we prepare for different situations? That's my hope. So you don't really get caught off guard, and the weird things can happen all the time in a game where you might say to yourself, whoa, I didn't necessarily see that, but that's where the preparation comes into play. But I would say from a managerial spot that when to do it, that gut, against the metrics and all that stuff.
Well, I was wondering maybe if you guys are going to wind up with Joe Madden before the season started.
He was pretty vocal on the Chicago radio stations. I think he was peddling a book of his that he just wrote. And he made it known that I think he still got the interest, but I think he also said in the same breath that, the way his perspective of the game might not be as embraced as it is right now with how things are done. I think, the whole metrics and the numbers and the data, and he might do things in a little bit different way. And that might not jive with front offices. But honestly, I thought Ozzie Guillen was coming back. They gave him, they gave him a look. They gave him an interview, I believe. He does the pre and post game for our cable network, NBC Sports Chicago. He's still very much involved in everything, sees this team regularly. Fans would have most of the fans, a certain guard would have lost their minds if he came back in a positive way. And then there's another faction that have lost their minds in a negative way. He can bring out a divisive, kind of fan base. But honestly, it's like he's got experience, though. He's got managerial experience, and he won a World Series. At least it would have been entertaining. I mean, Ozzie Guillen makes it absolutely entertaining. In hindsight, if this was the type of season we were going to be seeing throughout April, might as well have some fun with a manager that kind of just absolutely goes off during post-game comments.
Oh, that's fantastic, Nick. And man, like I said, I love watching the White Sox from a young man till now. But like you said, you're talking about that bullpen. I'm looking here at the list right now. I'm looking at Graveman. I'm looking at Colomé. I saw Gregory Santos, and I thought, isn't that guy that's a fake senator or something Santos? No, he's a fake baseball player.
This guy, Gregory Santos, he's got 102, 103 mile per hour if he needs it. Not very. Sometimes he's a little out of control, which you can be if you're throwing that hard, but that's a lively arm right now that they're trying to find different spots in a game for. Yeah.
And Bummer, he had a couple of rough outings there too.
Oh boy. Bummer, he's kind of, he's lost my good graces over the last year or so. He was a guy that's got a funky delivery, a left-hander that would get a lot of soft contact, and just lately he's just been getting a lot of tough contact. I mean, it's not even like, well, he's hitting these squibbers that are finding no man's land, or they're beating the shift, or this, that, and the other. Not this year. I mean, he comes in and he can't get out of an inning. He lets runners score. I thought when they cleaned house earlier this week, he might have been a guy that they just DFA'd. Instead they DFA'd Jake Diekman, which he was definitely a guy on my list of get this guy out of here, and then maybe Bummer down the road. I don't know if we get the power arm Garrett Crochet finally back, who's been battling back from Tommy John.
I was wondering about that because I saw it Tuesday. Bam, I think it was 11 or 12 players.
Yeah,
moved on the
11,
roster.
Yeah,
good Lord. So
yeah.
Are we seeing a lot of people come up from the farm, or what's?
Well, you saw Billy Hamilton, who they signed in the offseason. I mean, he was a real just positive energy guy in 2021, and they took a flyer on him, and he didn't make camp out of spring training, which was not surprising. He's a speedster, still has that speed. He can be a defensive replacement in the outfield and be a pinch runner, which they used him in the first game of this Twins series. So they brought him up. And they brought up Colomé and another arm, and they sent down Lenin Sosa, who was an infielder that was getting some time while Tim Anderson was on the IL. Right. And they also sent down their starting right fielder from the beginning of the year, Oscar Colas. And that one was really bizarre in my personal opinion. Here's a guy that, they hyped up in the offseason, lefty bat, pretty green. Okay. Did not have a lot of minor league experience, especially not AAA, but people in the know, quote unquote, thought he was ready. He's going to mash pitching. He's going to have a learning curve, of course, because he's young, but he's a natural right fielder, which again, the Sox didn't do anything to address that situation seriously in the off season. So of course they were going to do internally Gavin Sheets or Oscar Colas. Okay. So he had a pretty good spring, which I believe the front office was probably wiping the sweat off of their brow. Like, whoa, okay, so this will justify us having him make the team. That's fine. Well, he made the team, and, he scuffled throughout April, which he was supposed to scuffle. It's like buy the ticket, take the ride. You knew this was going to happen to this guy. Let him ride it out. He's not going to carry the offense on his shoulders. He's not supposed to. But instead, they said he's not meeting our expectations and he's going to have to go back to AAA. Well, you should have started him in AAA to begin the season. Let him mature. Let him get some reps, and ease your way in instead of this confidence knock now and this back forth. So that was, of the 11 moves, that was the one that I just really have a problem with. But it's so White Sox. That's how they operate. It's reactionary, and that one stuck with me.
I was thinking about the front office while you're saying that. I think this last year you guys spent $184 million in 2023 thus far. That's 12th in spending. So yeah, I would expect, you guys were just above the Cubs. By the way, I can't remember exactly what they had, but you do expect more. You say, but at the same time, you're talking about what? You don't have somebody. What's the highest number you got right now?
75 million is the big contract. And the second largest was the 73 million contract that Yasmani Grandal signed years ago. That's expiring at the end of this season. So, money gets spent, but is it spent correctly? That's the question that I think I have for guys like Rick Hahn and Kenny Williams. And, I was talking with somebody that was does some podcasting for the Minnesota Twins recently, and they were talking about, the depth that the Twins brought in the offseason to really make fans feel comfortable that they could make a run and win this division. It's a weak AL Central. So as long as you can plug some holes and you've got some pitching and, maybe you can fight off the injury bug, but the depth that the Twins were able to get in the offseason. And that's the problem I think the Sox have had. It's just those marginal guys, right? Those utility guys, because you're going to have injuries and you're going to have to plug some holes. Well, how are you spending those millions? How are you analyzing, talent and bringing them in? That's what I've been really concerned with, what the Sox front office has not been able to do over the years. Some of the contracts they've been giving out, ridiculous for the talent.
Well, here's something to think about too. The Central Division has been criticized in the past of being not strong. Okay. I looked at the power rankings this week, and the ESPN MLB, of the top 5, 3 of them were from AL East.
Mm-hmm.
So looking at that, consider that a possibility that the Central Division has not been that strong. Is the balanced schedule going to force those divisions, which haven't been as strong as others, to make changes? Do you think owners will invest more in those teams because are they going to be challenged more because of this balanced schedule?
That absolutely makes sense. I think that was something that I think you could use as a cop out, I guess, as someone from the front office with the White Sox is like, well, we're just keeping up with the division and we don't have to do much in this division. When you look at AL East and you look at a team like the Toronto Blue Jays and what the record they have and the talent they have, and what are they, 4th in the AL East or something like that? And it's like, well, look what they had to do in the Baltimore Orioles. And like everybody has to be clicking on all cylinders all the time to compete with the likes of the Yankees. And now like with what the Rays have been doing, even though nobody gives, the Rays the credit nationally, but they keep putting a quality product out there. Maybe that hopefully comes around to the AL Central and say, well, we just don't want to compete in the AL Central. We want to be competing the best in the American League. That's really what it should come down to.
Yeah. Well, I'm hoping maybe that does kind of give those teams a push, that those front offices, I should say, a push to be able to build a strong, good, consistent team. So, well, I tell you what, Nick, I don't want to take much more of your time. I know you've got a lot going on with Locked On Sox and Good Guys Talk Back podcast, which you all can find everywhere. Nick not only has it with audio, he has it on YouTube for both those too. How's Mr. Pat Hester doing there with you on Good Guys Talk Back?
He's doing great. I've known Pat, over 20 years. We met in college doing college radio. I was a mass comm radio broadcasting major, as was he, and we had a college radio show together, and we've been very close for all of these years. And 5 years ago or so, it was like, you know what, let's really do this. Like we both have that radio bug in us, and it became a little bit easier to set up, a podcast on your own, and the equipment is reasonable, and we both have the unbelievable passion for the White Sox. And I felt like, 5 years ago, the Sox weren't as represented, definitely locally on the big radio stations. And we were able to kick that off, and it's been going strong. A weekly rundown that has been therapeutic as of late, as we both can kind of vent to each other, and as you only can to someone you've known for 20 plus years.
There you go, friend. That's great. Well, I'm looking right here on what's going with the score, and right now it's 4-4 with the Twins and the Sox at the moment. So top of the 5th. Wish you guys another victory here, man. Can you go ahead and sweep the series and kick it, brother?
Boy, Mark, it would be, if we win tonight, it would be the first series win all year long. So you better believe I'm hoping for a victory right now.
All right. Again, we're talking with Mr. Nick Murawski of Locked On Sox and also Good Guys Talk Back podcast. So check it out, folks. Nick, I want to thank you again, man. It's always great having you here on Baseball Biz on Deck, brother. And look forward to talking with you again real soon, buddy.
Yeah, really appreciate the opportunity. Always fun talking baseball with you. So thank you so much. Hopefully go Sox. I don't think we see the Rays again for the rest of the year. I could be mistaken, but we got that out of the way in April.
Well, that's done. Yeah. No.
Yeah, right. Exactly.
All right, brother. Thanks again, man. Appreciate it.
You got it, Mark.
Once again, I want to extend our thanks here at Baseball Biz on Deck to the good folks at the Tampa Baseball Museum in Ybor, Tampa. So thanks again for joining us here on Baseball Biz on Deck, and we look forward to talking with you guys again real soon. Special thanks to X-Take RUX for the music rocking forward.